friends, and welcome to another WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Oh man, it looks good out there. You know, it's nice and hot. Trees are blooming. The flowers are blooming. I was looking at my wife's garden. It's starting to look really nice. And yeah, and there's likely going to be a barbecue happening this evening. And guess who's in charge of the barbecue? I am. My wife thinks she is sometimes, but yeah. I look after the barbecue. I'm Portuguese. What do you expect? I got all kinds of dishes, all kinds of stuff to put on that barbecue. Nobody can mess with it. At least I don't think so. Or maybe she just makes me believe that I have that kind of power. Either way, you didn't tune in to listen to me talk about barbecue. As I had indicated yesterday and today, I sent out I made some Facebook posts that I was going to be talking about Section 147 benefits. And that's what I'm going to do. So, Section 147 benefits only apply to individuals who were injured before January 1st, 1990. So if you're watching this video and you had a claim after January 1st, 1990, none of this applies to you. Unless you want to become a paralegal and a worker representative, then you may want to stick around and you might learn a few things. Because in 30 years, there's still a lot of people at the board that they still don't get it right. Even at the appeals branch. Every now and then I like to go on the tribunal and scour decisions and just do a bit of quality control thing for my purposes as to what's going on, what decisions are they making that may apply to claims that are older, that I can use to help my viewers and subscribers, and with WSIBsettlements.com to help, because I, for one, am of the belief that we are always learning from the day that we're put on this planet by the guy upstairs. And I learn something every day. And I'm grateful for that, because you're growing as a person, you're learning. And when I go to the tribunal, I'm always looking for certain types of decisions that they weren't ready to make them 10 years ago, but now they are. And what I mean by that is that sometimes it takes a while to create jurisprudence, which is a body of decisions that are made considering the same area or the same issues, whereby there's a certain consistency that's been adopted. And then vice chairs feel more comfortable, or tribunal panels, in making those decisions, because they can rely on how other panels or vice chairs ruled on these specific issues. So anyway, it's important to stay up to date. And so I've learned that the whole matter of 147 benefits is still a matter of confusion, which is beyond me. So today I'm going to cover that. And, you know, the legislation isn't that confusing, but I find people who have ill intentions or bad intentions can confuse things unnecessarily. And that's a shame. Because if you go into something with the attitude that you want to do the right thing, you're going to look for things in a different way. Your perspective is going to be different. But if you go into it with the intent that you're going to do harm, you're going to look for things to be able to justify what your intentions are, which is to do harm. And unfortunately, I've seen over the years, board staff, case managers, directors, all the way up the ladder, who somehow adopted this idea that somehow the money that they paid out to pay legitimate claims was coming out of their own bank accounts. And there's no need to be overzealous like that. There's plenty of checks and balances in the system that case managers and claims adjudicators don't need to do that. Because if you're dealing with just the average person who's just had an accident, they want some benefits, they want to get back to work, and if they don't know the laws and you're telling them something's the law, they're going to accept it. And now they have a premise. It's the wrong premise. And they're just going to go away and not get what they're rightfully entitled to. And that's just wrong. And you'd be surprised at thousands of cases that I came across where that was the situation. So, come on, guys, let's just take a step back and look at what the law states and try to look at it from the premise that you're the person that's in that injured worker's shoes. What would you like to have somebody in your position do for that person, that injured person who needs your help, who believes that you're the person who can do that? And they may hang on your every word erroneously and go through life and through work and all that with that misconception. I know I've gone a little bit off track here, but it's this whole issue of 147 benefits. It just it's like, holy shit. 30 freaking years. They're still dealing with it. There's no ambiguity in the law. So I'm going to simplify it for you. When you have an injury before January 1st, 1990, and you require time off work, they're going to pay total temporary disability benefits. Okay? Very straightforward. Total temporary disability means that you're totally disabled on a temporary basis from being able to return to work. That's why it's called total temporary disability. There's all sorts of ways of how that's calculated. And I do have another video that deals with the earnings basis and having the compensation rate recalculated, because a lot of people got screwed with that because they just didn't know the law. But anyway, that's what you get paid. Now, when they get to the part in your claim where it's determined based on medical information that's been provided by your doctors that you were going to have a permanent impairment, then they have you assessed for a permanent disability. And in most cases, it's a permanent partial disability. So in other words, you're partially disabled on a permanent basis. Like me, I'm partially disabled from my right hand. They gave me like 22%. It's permanent. My fingers aren't going to grow back. It's no different than if you have a back injury that after some treatment and medication and physio and all that, it may become a permanent impairment. But this doesn't mean that I'm totally disabled. I'm just partially disabled, but it's permanent. That's why they call it a permanent partial disability. And then they award a pension, which is a percentage, and they use this whole chart to determine what that percentage is. Whether you agree with it or not, I also have a video, and we have kits at WSIBsettlements.com to deal with that. Right now, I'm going for an increase to my permanent disability. And I did a video on that and how easy it was to use our documents to make that happen. So anyway, so once you've been recognized to have a permanent disability, now they have to determine whether or not your employer has a position that you're able to do that's within your restrictions. And in a lot of cases, there is. And so you go back to work, there's an accommodated position or a job with restrictions that are recognized by your employer and the WSIB. You go back to work and you can work for the next 20, 30 years without any problems doing that job that's been permanently modified for you, or that it recognizes or was done to recognize your restrictions. And everybody's happy and it all works out well. But in some cases, in a lot of cases, that's not the case. There is no job at the employer. It could be a small firm that really doesn't have positions. And to make a job on a permanent basis would be very costly for them. And so the board would provide what's called vocational rehabilitation services, what they refer to these days as labor market reentry after January 1st, 1990 under Bill 162 and the board's creative scheme to do away with the vocational rehabilitation department. I don't want to get off track here, but anyway. And then it's now called Work Reintegration Services. And what's their job? What was vocational rehabilitation? What was the main function? Well, that function was to either help to negotiate a return to work with your injury employer, or to then look at what the alternatives were in the workforce. And so in a lot of cases, they would do what's called a psychovocational assessment. And what that was you would be sent to an organization which is done under supervision of a psychologist. And that organization would do a number of tests, which could be done over a 2 or 3 day period. And then there would be this report. And the report took into consideration your physical restrictions, your personal attributes, your age, your experience, and certain types of jobs, the things that you like to do, your hobbies, all of these things. And the goal was to try and identify what you would be able to do in terms of a new career, and what the WSIB would do to support you on that road to a new career, that path to a new career. And so that psychovocational assessment generally would yield 1 or 2 or 3, what they called at the time, vocational goals. They're now referred to as suitable employment or business, or a suitable occupation. And so one of the things that they looked at, there's 2 things. One of them is to identify what you might be able to do in terms of the results of this assessment, taking into consideration your physical restrictions, your education and all that. And would it be possible that you could enter a new career, and what type of assistance would be required, and what your earnings potential would be at the end of that program. So it could have been a 2 or 3 year college program followed by job search assistance, or less or more. I've seen them in all different shapes and sizes. So the very important part here is there's 2. So now you're going to transition from that total temporary disability benefits that you received early on. You're now going to get your pension, which would have been 10, 15, 20, or 30%, which was 30% of your net average earnings. And the WSIB would then pay you a Section 147.2 supplement. And that Section 147.2 supplement, in addition to your pension, would make up what you were previously receiving as a total temporary disability benefit, again, which would have been 90% of your net average earnings. That Section 147.2 supplement would go on for the length of the program that you and the WSIB had agreed on in terms of helping you return to suitable and available employment. It could have been 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and more. If the WSIB determined through a vocational assessment or a psychovocational assessment that it would not be feasible to support you in a retraining program because you were a high wage earner and your vocational characteristics as yielded in that psychovocational assessment didn't make sense, and I'm not agreeing with the yay or nay because I handled many types of situations, what they would do is they would decide, they would pay you a supplement under Section 147.4. And that supplement had a specific amount. So there was a cap as to how much it paid. And I believe back in the late 1980s, early 90s, it was like $383 a month. And then you would get that in addition to your pension. It wouldn't be the Section 147.2 supplement, which had to, in conjunction with your pension, would have to top up to what your pre-accident earnings were. So it was much larger. And so a lot of times the WSIB would make this determination and the person would be left with their pension and this 147.4 supplement, and nothing else. So there's a lot of cases that we handled and we said, hang on, no. You got to provide vocational rehabilitation services and support this person because you're willing to cooperate, and you have to pay the 147.2 to help them get into a job that they're able to do and qualified to do. And a lot of instances, the WSIB did that. In some instances, what they would do is they would pay the Section 147.4 supplement as a wage loss supplement. So if you were able to find a job that paid closer to what you were earning, plus your pension, they would pay this as a wage loss supplement, and it may or may not have made up the loss, the entire loss between your pre-accident earnings and what this new job was. So pretty straightforward. This is what they were doing, and it seemed to be in concert with the law. Now, as in every application of the law that I've seen, especially with the WSIB, they take liberal interpretations of the law so that they're able to apply it in a somewhat arbitrary manner, and that led to a lot of appeals, and so I'm going to get to that. So this Section 147.4 has 2 review dates. So the Section 140, once they give you that 147.4, they can only review it 2 years after it was granted. And then they're allowed, at that 2-year time frame, they're allowed to review the supplement under Section 147, subsection 13, subsection 9 and 10. And basically, what that means is the only thing they could go and do at that review was if you had returned to work or you got a better paying job than what you had at the time that that supplement was granted 2 years previously, they would look at your earnings from this job and they could reduce that 147.4 by any amount that you had exceeded or gone over what your escalated pre-accident earnings were at that time. So if you weren't working at that time, then there were no earnings. And therefore, under Section 147.13, the only thing that the WSIB had the authority to do was renew the supplement for another 3 years. And in the 3 years after that, which would be 60 months after the initial determination, they would then be able to review again, request earnings information. If you had exceeded your escalated per-accident earnings along with your pension, then they could reduce it again. If not, the only thing they could do is lock it into 65. But what happened was, at the 24-month review, and for some at the 60-month review, the WSIB, some case managers took it upon themselves, or they were called claims adjudicators at the time, that they had the power to go in and re-adjudicate the initial entitlement to that supplement and take it away. And in a lot of cases, they said, well, we thought that you could benefit from vocational rehabilitation services, which, by the way, they denied. That's why they didn't pay the person the 147.2, which is much greater. And now they're saying that, well, it's your lack of cooperation. But if you want to cooperate with us, we'll reconsider 147.2. Well, no, you can't do that. The law doesn't allow you to do that. So a lot of people just got cut off. Can you imagine? All they're getting is this small supplement with their pension. And they thought, okay, when they first got it, they thought, holy shit, it's a big drop from the 147.2. But, okay, they take 2 years. It's like, well, this is what I got to deal with. Some of them got on Canada Pension Disability, were able to mitigate some of their lost income that way, and others just had to do without. And they were just doing this right, left, and center. It's like, what the hell? How can you do this? Anyway, so it became a real situation. And I remember that because I was very active with my company at the time. And we were growing by leaps and bounds. And we handled tons of them. And then the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal started to create a body of evidence, what they call jurisprudence, and say, hey, there's enough tribunal decisions that we're looking at the act and what section 147.13 says, and you can't do this. You don't have the authority to do this. And they started overturning decisions, and including a lot of them that we handled. And people got their supplements back. So some of you are still probably not receiving that supplement. We do have a settlement doc at WSIBsettlements.com. That's there just for the specific purpose to help you get that reinstated. So we have that. I developed that specifically for that purpose. So if you're a member of WSIBsettlements.com, you can use the kit or the document. If you're not, I would suggest that you become a member. It costs like $17.95 a month. It's not a lot of money. And then you have that and all the other tools that we provide and to provide support to our members. But anyway, and the tribunal decision that I'm referring to is decision 391-95 or /95. 391/95. I'm going to put that on the screen here so you can have a look at it. But anyway, that's the whole thing. So I know I was talking fast, maybe over your heads. I don't know. Sometimes I have a tendency to do that, and I'm trying to keep my videos a little bit shorter. But if you still have any questions about your entitlement to Section 147.4, by all means, send me an email at joemachado@WSIBsettlements.com and let me know what your personal circumstances are, and then I'll guide you as to what you need to do. Okay? So I hope that I've left you with some useful information. Maybe some of you were wondering all this time, how come that got taken away, and what the hell, and what can I do about it? Well, you can still do something about it, believe me. And you can go back a lot of years and get that paid to you, plus interest. So, and not only that, but going forward on a permanent basis, that'll be a nice increase to your pension. And I think right now they're paying $450 or $500 a month is what that Section 147.4 supplement. It could actually be a little bit more. So anyway, it's there. If you have any questions, let me know. And watch out for my shorts. I'm going to be talking about what's coming up in my later videos. If you're watching and you're a post January 1st, 1990 claimant, you may want to have a look at our class action lawsuit that we are organizing. And that's pretty much it, my friends. I thank you for taking the time to tune in, to watch the video. Give me your feedback. Let me know if there's other things that you would like me to talk about. And I've got 30 years of experience that I'm just so excited to share with everybody to help you. And as always, enjoy this beautiful day and have a great one, my friends. Take care.